Hello there. Welcome to, it's my YouTube channel, but it's also the River Rain Show podcast. We're doing a bit of both. So you can hear this on audio on my River Rain Show podcast on anchor.com, or if you're here watching YouTube, just stay here with us. Today, I've got an amazing guest, Rebecca Dragonheart. I first saw Rebecca on TikTok. Yes, I'm one of the Gen X who uses TikTok. I'm not embarrassed. And I just saw a flood of people doing readings on TikTok. And I was like, what is going on? There was such a variety of people. And she just stood out one day and I knew, oh, this one's the real deal. And I went on one of your lives and I saw the lightning speed that you would channel at and the clarity. And you answered something for me, even in this flurry of thousands of comments. So I told myself, if she picks me out of this flurry of things, there's a reason. And you said one thing, and then I booked you for a reading later, and it was amazing as well. So Rebecca, welcome. She's a psychic medium, and she's just written a book called The Little Light, A Soul's Journey. So we're going to talk about her work and her book and how you can reach her as well. So welcome, Rebecca.
Thank you. And I actually wrote the book over 20 years ago.
Oh, really? Okay, yeah. I said just, okay, I didn't know that.
Wow. It wasn't for the book to come out because back then people weren't as open and receptive as they are now to this type of story.
Definitely. Yeah.
I'm also a mom.
Okay.
And so I wrote the book basically as a mom of kids that were special and psychic and open, knowing that they were going to need this information and knowing that there were other kids that needed this information too. But like I said, at the time, I wasn't ready to share it because it wasn't as accepted as it is now. And I've noticed in the last little while that kids have really changed. You know, I have, right. I have 5 kids. My oldest is almost 30.
Oh my goodness. Wow.
Yeah. My oldest almost 30 and my youngest is just turning 10. And I got to tell you, the difference between the way they are is extreme. You know, and kids being born nowadays are coming in completely awake, completely in touch with their psychic abilities and completely aware of who and what they are, you know. And so I wrote this book knowing that it was going to help kids one day to be able to navigate this reality, you know. And The Little Light is a soul's journey is literally that. It talks about what it's like on the other side before we come here, and then what it's like to come here and be here as a soul in the body. Yeah.
But you must have had a lot of parents approach you or seen this in kids anyway. I mean, right? During all your years of work, like.
Yeah. So I've been doing my work since 1993. So that's when
yeah, me too. That's so funny. That's
it's a good year.
Yeah.
So I started with Reiki and I got certified at 16. So in 1993, I was 16 years old and I got certified in Reiki. And then that same year I moved to Petawawa, Ontario, and I trained with a shaman there. And he showed me a lot about energy. He actually showed me telekinesis, which I thought was really cool. I was blown away because he could actually move things with his mind. As crazy as that sounds, I saw him do it.
Wow.
Yeah, he was a powerful shaman for sure. And so he taught me a lot about guides and about the spirit world. I did a lot of meditations and things like that to tap into the other side so that I could understand that aspect of things. And then in 2002, I got certified as a hypnotherapist and did that even more. I did a lot of meditations, but when it comes to the other side, I had a lot of experiences. And I'll start with the very first experience I had. I was actually 14 and I had a really hard life and I didn't want to be here anymore. It was a really tough life. And I actually spent a few months really begging to be removed from this life to what as at that point I thought was God. I was like, I'm done. I don't want to be here. This is too hard. Please take me away. And there was an experience that I had that I was taken to the other side and I was shown what the other side looks like. And, you know, I do talk about it in some.
So a near-death experience.
Yeah. And I was, you know, blown away by the experience. You know, I got told it wasn't my time to be there, and I was really mad. But at the same time, because of that experience, I know what the other side looks like, you know, and it's profound. And it changed my life, and it put my life in a trajectory of helping others. And really a lot helping, you know, growing up for me, pre-internet, being the way that I was always different. And so it was really difficult to navigate the world that I was in, because I could feel things, I knew things, and I didn't have people around me that understood that, you know. And so it's really my biggest focus is to help parents with kids that are in the same boat that I'm in, and that I was, you know, because I had to navigate that energetically, and I had to talk to spirit guides and, you know, other psychics, and, you know, really try to figure that out all on my own. And now, after 30 years of experience and validations and whatnot, now I'm here at this moment where I can very comfortably say, I know exactly what happens on the other side, and how we are before we come here, how we are when we go back, that kind of thing. So I'm very confident in that.
Yeah. Wow. Did you want to tell us a bit more about that or not?
No,
that experience at 14. It's in your book. Okay.
But I will say this, when we're on the other side, our bodies are made of light. You know, we don't look like ourselves per se, but we can have a perception of the physical self, but it's just made of light. And, you know, I have talked about that on a couple of videos that I did of my experience, where on the other side, what I saw that I thought was unique that I had never heard before was people's chakras. They were, we always think about like the throat chakra is blue and the heart chakra is green and whatever. And what I saw was that everybody had different colors. So it wasn't the same for everybody. So I thought that was a unique experience, and I was really blown away by that. And they were the shape of people, but you couldn't see like identifying features of everybody, but there were people there that you could see. They were bright. They were so bright. It was like looking at a bright light, and you could see there were features, but you couldn't necessarily see detail because it was so bright.
Yes.
Good way bright, not a bad way bright.
I often find, I don't know about you, during readings, like it's sort of tough to navigate people's sort of Hollywood perception with what's actually, you know, so I might sense, like you said, you'll see like a room filled with light beings on the other side, and they go, is she with my uncle right now? And it's like, I don't know, like there's so many. One of them might be, it's not going to look like, oh no, he didn't have that hair. Oh, come on. Like, and I know like people just, we have people like us have to talk about this more so that people understand what this is, and they don't get so disappointed that it's not like a Hollywood film kind of thing.
Right. Absolutely. And a lot of times what I find, because I do mediumship as well, they'll present themselves the way they feel, not necessarily the way they looked, you know, and it's how they identify with their own energy. And so I've seen that quite often too, you know, where it's like, well, you know, I get that they're not this young, that they were old when they died, but they're showing me themselves like at 20. So
exactly. Yes. Or their true selves. And I'll be like, oh, he's just telling me. And they're like, we never talk very much. I'm like, well, he is now. Maybe he always wanted to. And the thing is, even just one little message like that provokes just so much reflection that they haven't done. And I think people get very scared by that, right? Sometimes
they do. Yeah.
Sometimes. Yeah.
You know, I really, I mean, I love the work that we do. I think it's a very powerful and very needed thing right now in the world. And so, you know, the drive for me is helping everybody that I can, that, you know, resonates with the little light or resonates with what I do or whatnot, you know. And I joined TikTok a year and a bit, I guess it was December 30th. I joined December 31st of 2021, and it grew really fast. It kind of it blew my mind how fast it grew. So I have over 100,000 followers you know.
That's amazing.
And,
good for you. So
yeah.
that means you're certified now, is that it?
Yeah, I don't know what it means.
Is it 100,000 that makes
Yeah,
you verified, or I don't understand the check mark
not
thing.
verified. No, you know, TikTok has their own way of doing their verifications. I'd love to be verified, but not yet.
Okay.
But,
I don't get it at all.
Very active on the platform, and
Yeah.
you know, I'm on YouTube as well. So I started YouTube not that long ago, and that one's growing a little slower, but you know, it's getting there. You can find my handle is Rebecca Dragonheart for all of my stuff. But and then I'm also on Instagram, which is a little slower as well. So I found that TikTok was definitely
interesting. Yeah, it is. TikTok, there's something very immediate about it. I mean, if it speaks to people, it's I love it. I love it. It's creative, and other platforms are just, they feel like they're more about advertising than sort of being raw. I think that's why TikTok probably works.
As well. Absolutely. Yeah. And I find with TikTok, the community is a little closer. So it's easier to communicate back and forth with your following. And, you know, I feel much more engaged on TikTok than I do. You know, I love the other platforms, but I'm still getting used to them.
Yeah. So, and before that, how were you navigating your readings and your business?
So, I used to do parties. And then from that, I actually opened a metaphysical store. So I did have a brick and mortar crystal shop that I did readings out of and sold crystals.
Oh, that's cool. And that was where again?
In Ontario, in Kingston, Ontario, actually is where I was. And I loved it.
Oh, your store was in Kingston?
It was in Kingston, yeah.
What was it called? I probably went 2 or 3 years. Oh my gosh. On what street? We're on Brock Street, wasn't it?
Street.
Okay. I'm sure I was in there a few years. That is crazy. So we crossed paths before I even found you. I mean, well, so many times when you meet people like, and you feel you're sort of meant to meet them, it's like we're not a couple, but you know, like when couples kind of go, oh my God. And then there were all these previous threads where you realize, anyway, I love those moments. That's so cool.
So funny.
Yeah. So tell me a bit more about, like, because we're talking about the journey of kids. I know you'll talk about like maybe younger kids, but I'm curious around that age between this 14 and 16 when you found a shaman, like what the heck was going on? How did you get from that state to to those people that helped you? What happened for you?
So I have a big purpose for being here, obviously, and that's why. You know, I'm not like other psychics in that sense. So, you know, I've always known that it was like a really big purpose. I didn't know what it was maybe necessarily, but I definitely knew it was a big purpose. And as a kid, you know, I had a lot of psychic abilities that I didn't necessarily know were psychic. You know, like I used to think kids were really rude because I could hear comments coming from them that they weren't necessarily saying. And then I realized later that they were actually thinking the thoughts, they weren't saying them to people. And, you know, that kind of freaked me out a little bit at first, but you know, whatever, it is what it is. And so from there, you know, I had, I really did have a tough life. I actually thinking about it is kind of sad, but at 14, I lived in the streets, and that's kind of where everything started for me. And so my home life wasn't one that I could stay at. And so I chose to leave. And
oh, wow.
Yeah. And so from 14 on, I struggled a little, you know, and I needed, because I didn't want to have, I didn't want to be a statistic, right? Although I guess I was, because I had my first kid at 16. But that being said, I made sure to train myself, and I took parenting classes and all that kind of stuff before I had my first child. And I was really diligent about that. And I've always been that way where, you know, if I don't know something, I want to learn about it. And so that was why I sought out to learn these things. You know, 16 years old, I walked into my first metaphysical store in Vancouver. And at that moment, I was like, oh, this is what I am. You know, that was my aha moment. And that was what kind of set up for success, you know. And right away, you know, I learned about Reiki, and I was so driven to understand what that was. And so I took a Reiki course in Vancouver with a Reiki master, and, you know, she was shocked because she'd never had a kid before, wanted to learn it. It's usually something for adults, but, you know, and I found out at that moment that I was also a medical intuitive. And so what that means, you know, I could see inside a person's body and tell them what was going on, you know, and, you know, that to me, when I learned that, was mind boggling, that we could literally look inside somebody without having to cut them open or do anything. Had several experiences of this in my life where I've been able to validate my ability to do that. And I do actually have a testimonial on my website that talks about it. But, you know, the person that was training me, you know, she would have us do, like, put our hands above and just kind of, you know, do the healing and whatever comes is information. Right. And so I was working on this gentleman, and as my hands went over his heart, I felt his heart flutter. And I didn't say anything at first. And then in the coaching and in the training of learning the Reiki, she said, so what did you see, or what did you feel, or what happened? Right. And I said, well, there's this one thing that happened. And the gentleman that I was working on, I said, you know, I felt his heart flutter. And then he proceeds to tell us he had a heart condition. So that was one of the first times that I was like, wow, this stuff's powerful. Right. And so after learning that, I moved to Ontario, and I just made sure to connect myself with the right kinds of people. So the shaman, you know, you say it's like by accident, but it was really divine intervention as far as I'm concerned, because, you know, it was a small town that I lived in, but it just was, the meeting was so happenstance, like, and so bizarre in a way, like, you know, random. And we just started talking, and he knew right away that there was something different about me. And so he actually offered to train me. And so he spent an entire year training me on all kinds of things. So he trained me on, you know, telekinesis, telepathy, meditation, trained me on, you know, herbs and things like that. Not that I used any herbs or anything, but he just told me a little bit about that kind of stuff, which I thought was fascinating, you know, and about the earth and how the earth can communicate with us, which I've had experiences of that as a child. So he just validated things that I'd had, you know. And so the reason why I focus so much on kids is, as a kid myself, I didn't have any support in any aspect of my life, even just with being brought up, you know. And so being different and then being brought up was even worse.
Yeah.
So I was like, I'm going to make sure that there's going to be something out there to help kids that are kind of, you know, not given the guidance that they need. And it's not always the parents' fault. You know, sometimes they just don't know, you know? And so I really wanted to start with the little light, because I think that the basic understanding of our soul is one of the strongest things we can teach our children, you know, to know that you are not this finite body, but you're actually this infinite being from no time and no space that goes on forever, and that you don't actually die and you just transition. You know, I wanted to express that and teach that to families, so that one, parents can feel good about it, and kids understand themselves.
Yes.
And so
that's beautiful.
That was my drive.
That's beautiful.
Yeah.
I've often found, I do it in a different kind of way, but trying to help parents understand that their child is not their property. You know, this is a little soul that arrived with its own karma, you know, its own personality and agenda, but, you know, like, and I find sometimes astrology has helped a bit with that, because you do the chart and they sort of look at you and they go, oh, so it's not my fault. Like, it's just their character. Like, and I love to try to do that as early as possible. So they go, this is what this little being needs. It's not all related to you, you know, but I love what you're doing too. And it's so needed. More and more books like this are needed. I don't even know if there's one like that right now. Sylvia Browne wrote something, didn't she?
I don't think
Psychic Children.
I all of my kids' books are going to be geared towards helping kids open up to their psychic ability. So
yeah,
that's
wonderful.
The fun.
Yeah. And what age group are you sort of aiming for?
So this one here, I mean, parents can obviously gain from it, but it's like basically from the time they're, you know, I read to my kids when they were in the womb. So I'm going to say from the time they're inside to 10 years old is what I would say light. But I feel like with and you'll show some of the artwork, but with the way that the art and everything is, you know, it's going to be such a beautifully illustrated, not just words, but also illustrated in a way where you can identify and almost understand the other side and your connection to it, you know? So it's definitely unique for sure. And, you know, one thing I love is my artist that I'm using, he is also very intuitive. And so has a very strong connection to listening. And so, you know, you saw some of the conception art there. He and I talked a lot in depth about what it was I was trying to translate. And what he came up with was he's going to do a 3D space and then draw from that so that he can really be immersed in it. So he did give me some conception art, if you do want to share that will help us to understand what it looks like.
Yeah, well, let's take a look at that, since you did share with me the cover of the book and then some of the artwork. We'll just have you weigh in. Here's the cover of the little light. Looks very pretty. I love the artwork.
It's definitely beautiful. And I have my sample cover coming this week. So I was, like I said before, hoping it was here for this, but unfortunately it's not. So you'll have to go over to my TikTok to see the grand opening of it.
Yeah, cool. All right. So let's take a look at some of the artwork you mentioned. So you can tell us about this first one.
Yeah, so this is a space that I'm not going to go too in depth of what it is, but basically, as you look at it, these are the little lights. So these are the souls of people, right? And this is a space that it really does exist. That's what I'm going to say about that. You can go on to the next one if you want, and I'll just let you just kind of take it in. But what you see there is the concept that we're trying to go for here. Okay. So if you imagine the little souls there, those are, you know, this is just the concept of it, but they'll be light, right? So they're going to be lit up as well. Okay, but that's still sort of vague for people. No, I don't want to tell. Well, you won't give away the whole book by telling us a little more. Otherwise, people are going to go, huh? This is weird. Maybe yeah, just as my daughter says, one here she really likes because it looks like a portal, right? Yeah, it does. Yeah. Yeah, and that was my 10-year-old's understanding of it. So we're going to leave it at that, but it goes with some beautiful concepts as well with the wording as well. So this is just the 3D space, but this isn't what the actual pages are going to be finalized at. Okay, so this is just to give you guys a little bit of an idea of what we're going for, if that makes any sense. Well, to be honest, not really. It's too vague for people. Give it away. No, but you're not giving all of it away to give a little bit away. You know what I mean? True. So think about it. Explain a little bit more so people have a context of something. Sure. So, I mean, like I said, that portal kind of a feeling, right? And so this is the idea is that there are gateways between there and here, right? And so there's different that we can come through, right? Okay. No, that's clear. Yeah. All right. Okay. Thanks. That's just another one of the same thing. So this is kind of what the shape looks like when you see people on the other side. So they're shaped like this, and that is really what they look like lit up. Okay. And then this is just the basics. In different colors, you said? Well, the chakras are different colors. So that they themselves will be this like bright emanating light of prisms. That's the best way to describe it. Yeah. But you said everybody's different colors. That's why I was curious. That's right. So your third eye would be, so say your third eye is green, my third eye is pink, and somebody else's is purple. In that sense. Okay. I thought you meant individuals had
like
No,
a couple of color
chakras.
combinations?
Yeah, their chakras.
Oh, the chakras are rearranged where they are.
That's right.
Oh, that's interesting.
Right?
That's very interesting. Yeah. No, that throws it all on its head, doesn't it?
It really does. It really
well,
does.
because it's such a structured and detailed system. If you suddenly go, oh, well, actually my third eye is orange, they go, oh, no. It's like,
right. Yeah. Right.
Very interesting. Okay.
Very. So this is just another one there. So this here, what does that look like to you? I'm going to ask you.
It feels like something is lifting something so that between dimensions is what I would guess.
Yeah, that's a pretty good guess, actually.
Yeah. Okay.
so these are the souls around a kind of looking glass type thing.
Yes. Okay. Interesting.
Right.
Oops, and that's me. Sorry.
That's it.
All right. So we'll stop the sharing here.
There you go.
So tell us maybe a bit more about your own kids and how you see these generations, how they're so different with their, like, if you could give an example of your oldest.
Absolutely. So my kids are all very sensitive and psychic in their own right. Obviously, I don't know if you've ever heard of studies that they've done, but they have done studies on psychics, and that it is actually a genetic thing, and that it is proven to be something in the genetics of the family line kind of thing.
Oh,
and
no, I didn't know that, because my family's totally blocked and I'm the weirdo. So no, I didn't know that. Okay.
What I noticed that's different about kids today is that kids today are a lot more emotionally sensitive, right? So a lot of them suffer from things like ADHD, anxiety, things like this, but really it is a mistranslation of energy, right? So they don't know how to balance themselves. And it's so important for us to, as parents and, community, to understand that the reason why these kids are coming in so sensitive is because they're just open, and they can't turn it off because they're meant to use their gifts. We're moving into a new age of that. Yeah. And so the importance is teaching them how to navigate that energy and how to work with that energy so that they can be the effective adults that they want to be when they grow up. Right. And so they're coming in fully dilated. Yeah,
dilated is a good analogy, actually.
Yeah, absolutely. And my 10-year-old was one, she suffered from selective mutism, which is a severe form of anxiety, and literally she would just shut down, and you would see her put up an energy wall. Like, you would just see that block, and she wouldn't look at you, she wouldn't talk to you, she wouldn't acknowledge you. And so I worked really closely with her, helping her to understand and navigate that energy. And now she talks to people, no problem, but she had a hard time with it.
Well, at the beginning, you must have had to struggle with professionals calling her autistic or something, or like trying to put her onto the spectrum with that. No?
Yeah, I knew with her. Yeah, I mean, she was in speech therapy. She hated it, so we didn't bother to continue that. My niece was deaf, and so we taught her sign very fluently. And so they used to say that's why she wasn't talking. But that wasn't the reason why. No. She would try to telepathically. Catherine, she would look at me and she would go, like, try to talk.
Like, can't you tell? Yeah.
Seriously.
Wow.
And that was the difference. That was the difference. I'm like, it's not that she doesn't want to talk. It's that she doesn't want to do it in the old fashioned way. She wants to do it energetically, and I mean, we have, her and my second youngest were very telepathic. And, my second youngest, she's 19 now, but she didn't cry for 6 weeks because she would communicate with me telepathically. And that sounds ludicrous to some people, I'm sure, but I knew when she was hungry for having to tell me with tears. Okay. She would wake up, I'd be in the other room, she'd be having her nap, and I would know telepathically that she had a dirty diaper and needed her butt changed. And I would go into the room, like, not crying, not complaining.
Yeah, I don't have kids, but I understand it with cats or with other things. Right? If you're that connected, you don't need the distress signals.
That's right.
Before you can respond.
That's right. And so that was the difference. And that's the difference that I see in kids today. And so if parents understand that there is this easier way of navigating them, you know, which is my whole plan is to help them with that, they're going to see a big difference in their kids and the way their kids behave. You know, my daughter, 19 years old now, and, you know, we talk telepathically all the time. Like she'll have a thought about something, like even if she just wants something specific for dinner, you know, and she won't say it to me. She'll just send the thought out to me and then I'll pick it up or whatever, you know, that kind of thing. I mean, it seems trivial, but it's so profound really, when you think about it. It's so powerful. And so, you know, I kind of live in that world on a regular basis.
Yeah.
You know, now with my older kids, they weren't quite that way. They were sensitive. And I do have, you know, I have one that's a little stronger psychically than my other. So my 3 older ones, they're in their 20s and almost 30. So they're open, but they're just not open in the same way. And I think had they had the guidance that I plan on helping others have in this way through books, I feel like that's going to be an easier way, because we're so visual, like humans are so visual. So being able to see it physically, I feel is an important thing. Mm-hmm. I really feel like it's going to help, you know, those images, when you looked at them, they didn't feel strange, right? Like they almost feel like I recognize that. And that's, you know, what we're going for is as much accuracy as possible in this design of this, you know?
Yeah. So you'll be coaching a lot of parents.
Definitely. Yeah. I think it's so vital because, you know, I know for myself, trying to figure it out later is way harder, right? Yeah. It's way harder than to have the guidance and the support and, you know, the putting you in the right direction right from the beginning, you know?
Well, yeah, just the slippery slope of what happens to us when we feel misunderstood at any time, how it can lead to depression and other worse problems, you know?
Yeah, absolutely. And, you know, I would hate for that to be, you know, a lot of the times what ends up happening is they turn their gifts off because they don't feel understood or they feel different. You know, I felt like such an outsider growing up. Yeah. Because everybody around me used to say I was weird. You know, my own family would be like, you're so weird, you know? And so thankfully I have a nice thick skin. I am a Sagittarius, you know, and so we do have a bit of a thicker skin. You know,
and I think you're also the year of the snake, are you not?
The dragon, actually.
You're the dragon, so you've got the dragon scale.
That's right. That's right. I mean, right? You know enough about that kind of stuff.
It helps. Yeah.
It helps a lot. It helps immensely. And I had communication with my guides very, very early on, you know, and a lot of support, spiritually speaking. There was a lot of that kind of energy around me, and they've never been quiet. You know, so I had a lot of that kind of support. And I feel like, you know, one, that's happened because I meant to help others have that as well. Right. And I went through what I went through so that I could understand what other people are going through. Yeah. You know, and that's a big thing. And I feel like this book, although it's a children's book, I feel like it will help people who are aware that they're more than they are, you know, even though it's in a kid's book forum. I know
it'll make it a safe way for the parents to receive that information.
That too.
Well, and without them feeling like you're challenging them. They're reading a kid's book to their kid, but they're the one learning.
That's right. That's right. And it's not about challenging anybody. It's about really giving this information so that you can understand clearly what you are and why you're here, you know, and that's super important, you know. So with the little light, you know, I started a campaign on my website because, you know, being a Canadian publisher, I have to do this all by myself. Yeah. Publishers don't pick up this kind of stuff in Canada, you know. So I am self-publishing. So we did start a crowdfunding campaign on my website. And so anybody can come and start supporting if they want to. And it doesn't have to be just by buying the book. Like I have videos up on my TikTok as well. And so even just sharing that video with people that you think might be interested, it would be phenomenal. And my artist, lovely artist, has decided that he's going to do, you know, there's tiers with our campaign. So if we sell 2,000 books, I'm going to do a shout out for everybody who bought the book, you know. And then there's these different tiers here. I'm going to pull it up just so I don't get it wrong. So you have like, you know, your basic book, then you have You can buy two for the price of less than one, and then the hardcover. And then he's a really good artist, and is doing for people who want to have the book specialized. So he will do a family portrait at the end for the kids.
Actually, that's lovely.
For family,
wow.
Costs extra because we have to pay him for it, but I think it's beautiful. Such a beautiful to have. And I know for myself, because books have always been something that I've had in my home. And I feel like having something so personalized that way, it's epic.
Yeah.
It really is.
The other thing you might want to check out is to do an audio book of it and put it up on Audible.
Yeah. So we're thinking not audio, but we're thinking digital copy in a way where you can actually read the book digitally.
Yeah. The Kindle version
Right. Yeah. That has the interaction and stuff. So that's all in the works as well. First, we want to just get the first book out, and I get my cover this week or Monday, I guess. And so I'm going to do a TikTok live to do the reveal, which is super exciting.
Yeah.
And, it's been such an experience. That's all I got to say. It's been such an experience, and there's been an overwhelming amount of support from the community, and so, I mean, you being one of them, obviously. I really do appreciate it. And I do actually have another interview at the end of the month with somebody as well. So it's been really supportive. And I know that it is going to grow organically on its own, but I'm excited for sure.
That's cool.
Yeah.
I wanted to tell a little story of another friend of mine who is a medium and a mom. Because like I said, I haven't had kids. So this is just her. Okay. I was close to her while she was pregnant, or she had messages that she would get pregnant, and then what was going on with the soul. And I just wanted to share the story and see if because now you've had 5 and you're a medium. So I think it would be interesting for people. Okay. Because it's quite, in a way, it's quite timely with what's going on with Roe v. Wade being overturned and people talking about this, if you talk about abortion from a point of view of the soul and what happens and things that I've learned from reading women who have had them. But here's the little story. So my friend Stacy, who never worked as a medium, but was a very strong medium, she had a feeling psychically she would get pregnant, but then she saw a soul floating around her. And then it took maybe a few months before she got pregnant. And even though she was pregnant, the soul was still floating outside for a few months. And then another one showed up suddenly, and it was like they had to choose. And then the one went away, and then she felt it enter. I forget whether it was around 4 or 5 months.
Yeah.
And I mean, she's the only one who's ever told me that intimately, who's aware of things on this level. So I'd love to hear what you have to say on that.
Definitely. So I've heard the same thing. I've seen the same thing. I'm going to be honest. I just had a client yesterday that confirmed that, you predicted my baby. And that was the same thing. I saw this soul flying around her, outside of her, but around her, literally waiting its turn, waiting for the moment that it can just be a part of this family, And I've seen that. I've seen one of my children, when I got pregnant, I felt the soul enter me. It was bizarre. Do you
remember around what time, or did you feel it hovering first, or it just felt like
I felt it hovering? Absolutely felt it around. I always knew energetically around me when I was gonna get pregnant for sure. And I do believe it was around the 3-4 month mark. They don't go in right away because it's a long haul. You're there for a long time. But once there's that deep bond, I feel like they're ready, and then they build this connection with the mother, right? And that's why, a lot of times people will say they don't stay in there, but I believe they do, because as a mom and carrying the kids that I've carried, I could feel them and I would talk to them. And, if you think about it, around 4 months is when you start feeling your baby moving, right? 4 or 5 months.
Yeah. So, well, it's interesting that, even when it comes to termination, they say like 3 months, otherwise no. And I thought, isn't that interesting that, these two things are coinciding, even though we don't talk about it.
Yeah, absolutely. And you know, abortion is a difficult choice for anybody, but
Yes.
you know, I'm going to say this, the soul already knows what's going to happen.
Yes.
Right. And that's the experience that soul has signed up for, you know, as crazy as it sounds.
Well, I mean, from reading women that had them, who came to me over the years, over and over, I kept getting the message that the soul had not entered, and therefore you did not damage a soul. So many people were just bawling their eyes out that they had ruined. Yeah. It's like, okay, the physical self is in the mother, but the soul was not damaged. It gives people enormous peace.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know?
And definitely, you know, we're not the physical self anyway. Even
no.
We're not. You know, I kind of talk about our body being like a pair of slippers that we just kind of put on and
That's
walk
interesting.
around.
I chose, we all choose what slippers. Why we're going to wear this time around.
Exactly. And so, you know, I'm not as offended by it as I used to be, let me say. And I had an experience with one of my daughters ended up having a sick baby. She was pregnant. He was dying anyways. And she actually had to make the terminate that pregnancy. And that baby came to me and said goodbye, you know, and I know it was him because he said goodbye, grandma. And I don't let my grandbabies don't call me grandma. They call me Mima. So I knew he came into the room and, you know, she was devastated. She wanted this baby so much, but he had all of his internal organs were outside of his body.
Oh, geez. So oh my goodness.
And they told her, even if he survived to pregnancy full term, when he was born, he would need so much medical care that they wouldn't have saved him anyway, is what they told her, because he had too much going on. It was called pentology of control. So his heart and his stomach was outside of his body. And so, you know, made that really difficult decision to say goodbye. And he came into the room with me, and I was waiting for her as she was, you know, having the procedure done. And I felt the pressure of the room change, and he came in and he said, "I love you, grandma. Bye." And left and went back to his parents, you know, and his spirit was around us after that. You know, a lot of times people don't believe that that's the case, but I used to see him rolling around and, you know, it's interesting. And this is something else you may want to validate. What I saw with him was, instead of being a newborn baby, he was 3. He was around 3 years old.
Oh, very interesting.
Yeah. So I would see, and my daughter saw him that way too. And she didn't have a 3-year-old at home, and she would see handprints on the wall as if there was a baby around, you know? Yeah. So I thought that was fascinating. And I used to test her because I would feel him and I would say, you know, I feel him. And then she would point where he was. And that was exactly where I'd feel him, you know? So I used to do those types of things with my kids a lot, just to help them validate things, you know?
Yeah.
And that's the importance of helping them stay awake and aware. Right.
Yeah, so exactly.
If anybody ever struggles with that decision, you know, just know that the soul is aware of what's going to happen. Before we even come here, we plan our whole life. We plan all of our experiences, good, bad, and indifferent, you know? So.
Yeah. I think a lot of kids also, I wanted to bring pets into the conversation, because I think that's another way that, you know, it's like both are nonverbal, both are very sensitive. And of course, usually kids lose a pet somewhere in childhood and have to understand these things. Then it would be a great timing, right?
Definitely. And I actually have a really fun pet story video up. So I had a couple come to me that wanted to talk about a dog that they had just had to put down, and their dog had diabetes, and they were feeling guilty because they couldn't keep the dog alive. And it ended up being such a unique, phenomenal experience, because they had another dog that died a year prior. And she was sitting beside her owner, and it was this black terrier looking type thing. And it wanted me to come over and say hi. It literally pulled, like, you know, I'm Princess blah, 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 blah. Like, just had this like regal name. And she just kept telling me names. And so I told her owner that there's this other dog and it's not letting the other dog come through. It's like keeping the other dog back about a foot and a half. Right. And she starts crying and she's like, oh my God, that's my other dog. She died a year ago. And she was just like that. And they used to have these little nicknames for her. And it was like Princess Puffin, blah, blah, blah. And always Princess something, you know, and that was the way her personality was, you know? And so they were just floored that both dogs came through, you know? And I had said to them, you know, the dogs don't talk in our language, obviously, but they were able to communicate to me. So the dog that I had just passed over was able to communicate to me that, you know, they hadn't told me their dog had diabetes. I told them. And, you know, they felt guilty because they couldn't take care of the dog anymore. And I said, yeah, but you did. You gave your dog needles every day, you know, like, and your dog is grateful for everything you did for him. So that he loves you and he's still with you, you know, and they left happy and super confident that their dogs were both there, you know. So our spirit goes on. It doesn't leave this realm, you know.
I still have a cat that I have. She passed in 2009. She still shows up,
right?
And ironically, a few months before my other cat passed this winter, he was 16, and I have a picture of the other one that he knew grew as a kitten, you know, and then she passed when he was a few years old. He started pawing her photo on the wall for months before it was his time. Of course, part of me knew, like, oh crap. Yeah. He's seeing her spirit. He's in the in-between. I didn't want to quite let him go until he really told me I need to go. Yeah. No, that's we're all like that with our pets, but
of course.
But yeah, she shows up. I mean, and that's years later. So I mean, for me, that was one of the most reassuring things about this path, because like nobody taught me either. I was navigating it alone, and to finally understand that you know, the soul goes on no matter what.
That's right.
It takes away so much fear in life.
Yeah.
And you know, and also when you make a connection with somebody, living or not, like, love goes on too. It doesn't go away.
Yeah, exactly.
You know, it's so reassuring. It's a worldview after that.
Yeah. I like to tell my clients that, you know, as soon as you think about those people, they come into your energy because they can feel you, you know. It's sort of the way I give them the example is like, when you think about somebody who you haven't talked to in a while, and then they phone you, right? Because you've energetically plucked their feelers, you know. It's the same with people when they've crossed over. As soon as you start thinking about them or talking about them or having feelings about them, they feel you talking, feeling, and thinking about them. And so they'll show up, you know. So they're not with you, like your guides are a little different because your guides are with you 24/7. They're only with you when you're thinking and feeling and wanting to have them around, you know. So they're not like, you know, weirdly there all the time, but they're around. And, you know, when we're on the side, we have things we do there. You know, it's not like we're just sitting on our butts doing nothing all day long. You know, we're working spiritually on the other side as well. You know, it's just different because we're in a non-corporeal body.
I find there's just such a variety on the other side as there is here. I mean, people want, again, this Hollywood thing where the second my mom passes, she's reunited with the entire family as it is in my mind, and she's helping me find a parking space. You know, it's like, no, sorry. And people get, you know, disappointed when it's like, no, your grandpa's with his war buddies. He's not with the rest of the family. Or like the stuff we hear, and then it's painful to translate, because what we're getting on the other side is their true soul. And if there was a lot suppressed in this life, then you get real tricky situations with families that are grieving, I find.
That's right. And, you know, you just have to play that a little bit carefully. Right?
Oh yeah, of course. Of course. But this is why I separate my sessions now, and I channel in advance. And then when I sit with the people, I have my notes, because if it's just coming through and I say, no, they didn't like that person. What? You know, but they okay. Uh-oh, shit. I'm so sorry. So, yeah, because I find, I don't know, like our culture has changed dramatically. Like you said, we have so many kids and people coming in awake and raw and like dilated, but we also have like a wave of like, I don't know, some sort of weird, like maybe technology has made people feel like they should just be able to, we should be able to plug in like a button There's less patience with the process than there used to be. There's less ability to listen than there used to be. So I find it's just, we're in a weird time.
Yeah. And you gotta remember too, energetically, because we've moved into a faster phase of things.
Yeah.
That can definitely affect a lot, right? Which is why it's so vital to understand ourselves and the other side, and really what is happening, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you before we wrap up, I wonder if you felt like sharing anything else for posterity, or your feelings about where we're going in the world?
Yeah, I mean,
I'd love to hear what you're feeling.
Definitely. Worldwide, I call it birthing pains. So right now we're in, we're going through a huge transformation. And although it can feel heavy and dire at times, that's not the reality of what's happening. And so we're really starting to move into awakeness and 2022. So what I do every year is I always ask my guys, what's this year for? What's this year geared? And what I've gotten consistently for this year is that it is time for us to know ourselves. It is time for us to wake up and be the authentic person that we are supposed to be. And what does authenticity mean? So to me, if you have to do anything that is against your nature. So let's say somebody invites you to go to dinner. You don't really want to go with that person, but you go anyways. You're not being authentic, right? Yeah. Or if there's somebody in your energy field that you don't really feel comfortable with, but you still hang out with them, that's not being authentic, right? If you sugarcoat things, you're not being authentic. So this year is about stepping into our power and being the authentic person that we're meant to be.
Oh, yes. I see that. Yeah. I see that all across the board with people struggling with relationships that they want the stability and yet they know it's not working. And you see big waves. I like TikTok for that aspect. You see trends of where people are really genuinely thinking, and you see a lot of videos are like, screw it. I'd rather be alone than sacrifice myself and bend myself around for this and that and this and that. And I think it's great. I really do, because people are embracing being themselves. It's going to lead to better relationships, and everybody, we were in a phase where people were just so, this hookup culture was just out of control, and in a way the pandemic came on, and thank goodness, no.
It did. It changed everything. And it changed things, in some ways, not so great, but in some ways, in phenomenal ways, because people are now, I'm not going to work that dead end job, and I'm not going to work myself alone, and I'm going to be me, and that's what, that's what the whole pandemic was about, was for us to wake up, and it's painful. I get it. And it's not fun. I get it.
It's like a detox. It's like rehab or something. It's not fun. One day at a time. Have faith. Take care of yourself.
That's right. That's right.
Make amends. Whatever. Do the assessment. That's right. All those steps. It's forced everyone.
Easiest thing is be authentic. If you are speaking and walking your truth, you don't ever have to worry whether you're doing things right or not. And that's really where it comes from. That's really the next step for us, is being authentic. And if I don't like you, it's not because I don't like you. It's because I don't like you for me. You're not the right vibration for me. That doesn't mean I'm judging you or saying you're a bad person. It's just saying, for me, you don't resonate with me. Sorry, I got to let you go. Right. Yeah. And that's what it comes down to, that's my on that. So that's what 2022 is all about. Should I give you my website so people can go check it out?
Yes, please.
Yeah. So it's www.rebeccadragonheart.com. And then you can find me on TikTok under Rebecca Dragonheart as well. And on Instagram and YouTube as well under Rebecca Dragonheart.
Wonderful. Well, thank you. It was a fun conversation, and I'm sure lots of people are going to love your book, and you should head over and definitely check out her channels and hire her for a reading. I highly recommend her.
Oh, thank you so much.
You're welcome.
So much fun. Thank you.
All right. Pleasure.